Hello again, and welcome back. And Edie, thank you so much. And it's an absolute delight to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
It really is. It's so special to have you here for this conversation. And, you know, I know when you committed to doing this panel, we're going to talk about risk, and we're going to talk about things that need to be done in the world to make sure that business is carried on as best it can be. But we were probably going to go on a little different focus. We'll stay on that focus, but then last week we had a bit of headline news with that big bank that you once happened to be the former CEO. And I know everybody in this audience is just thinking, what has he got to say about it? So I'm going to have to put it to you. It happened. I read that you were stunned disbelief. The big fallout. I mean, what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? And just give us a few words.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the FII for having me here, and just say briefly why I'm here. There are really three reasons. First one is my love for Saudi Arabia. I think it's a wonderful country. I'm older than I look. I remember my father visiting Saudi in the 70s and coming back enthusiastic, and I share that feeling. The second is in this room, and it's Richard Atias and his wonderful wife Cecilia. I've known Richard for too long, and always support him in everything he does. And the third one is the best investment I ever made, which was buying a house in Miami in 2008. So three easy reasons for being here today.
The mayor will be happy with you.
Exactly. I aim someday to maybe replace him, but that's a long-term ambition. Mayor of Miami. No, more seriously, Credit Suisse, I think, honestly, you seem to have read my op-ed in the FT. Yeah. So I said, stunned disbelief. So I will, and I know there are a few friends from the media in the room, some of them have approached me, so I will restrict my comments to what I said in that piece, which was well thought through and summarizes my views on the situation. So I encourage everybody, I'm not paid by the FT, but I encourage everybody to read that op-ed.
So that's it. Okay, so stunned disbelief, and you can read the rest. Okay, there's nothing we can do about that situation. It has happened, and what we need to do now is seriously move forward. So, you know, post the situation there, let's just look at the state of the global banking sector right now, and how fragile do you think it is, and who's driving it? Or do you think it's fragile? Do you think it's in safe hands?
I think it's not fragile. First of all, you have to start with the economy. Banking is just a part of the economy. One reason why I am confident is that the state of the global economy is good. The global economy has gone through COVID reasonably well. We've seen China coming out of COVID. Maybe a slowdown, but the economy is sound, and most banking or financial crises have their roots in challenges in the real economy. So first thing is that the real economy is strong. The banks are profitable. I'm going to say this about Credit Suisse, but it's relevant. A big part of what I did there was making the bank profitable. Okay? And organic capital generation is in itself a risk management instrument. Okay? Companies to do well need to be profitable. And the sector as a whole is generating very strong profits, which goes then to strengthen the balance sheet. Then you have to look at what's going on, and it's really interesting. But generally, banking crises are on the asset side. On the asset side of a bank, you have its loans and its investments. On the liability side, you have the deposits. This is a very original situation because actually the crisis has come from the liability side. That's highly unusual, i.e. people withdrawing their deposits at SVB or at Credit Suisse, which then triggered the intervention of the Swiss state, the liquidity backstop, etc. So I actually believe that that's much less threatening for financial stability than crises on the asset side, when it's about credit losses, NPLs, non-performing loans, etc., etc. So, and final comment I'll make is that the balance sheets are very strong. Capital is very strong following 0809, and the liquidity, because banks and financial institutions die more from liquidity events than capital events. It's really a liquidity crisis that generally leads to a failure of an institution, not capital. So overall, I'm quite comfortable. You need to understand also what's going on. You take Deutsche Bank. I was looking at the situation. Deutsche is profitable, one, my earlier point. Okay, 7% return on tangible equity, but it's profitable. And then the European Central Bank has put in place a lot of backstops since 2012, since the euro crisis, that are intact. And if you look today at whether European banks have tapped into that liquidity backstop, they haven't. So not only are the banks solid, but there's been a lot of containment measures taken around them to ensure that they do well. Now, the market speculation is linked to people, but if you want to play a stock, a bank stock, the cheapest way to do it is to go on the CDS market. CDS market is shallow, not liquid, and attracts a lot of commentary. So you put $10 million, generally after, I'll tell you what's going on with Deutsche. After the euro market closes, speculators go and short the CDS, increase the spread on the CDS, then you get articles saying that Deutsche is going to get bankrupt, and then they go into the ADR market, which is very illiquid, where they take a position and make good money. So you really have to distinguish what's going on in the real economy and those kind of speculative positions taken by people who basically aim at making money.
Now, as we look at the new world of risk, you know, OCC defines risk as credit, interest rates, liquidity, price, forex, transaction, compliance, strategic, and reputation as well. If you were to list, I suppose, the most important areas of risk management, so to speak, what would you think that would be right now?
Honestly, they're all important. It's a question of kind of short term, medium term, and long term. If you mismanage any of those, they come back to bite you later. Right now, because we are in a transition in terms of the interest rate cycle, interest rate risk, and I think Secretary Mnuchin talked about it, has taken precedence. I'm actually personally happy that interest rates have gone up. I was never a great supporter of quantitative easing. I think it has distorted the price of risk. You can think about interest rate as just the price of risk. And if you misprice risk, you make bad decisions. And this era of very low interest rates, excessive liquidity, has led people to take riskier positions that they would have otherwise. And everybody knows the famous Warren Buffett sentence, that it's when the tide goes down that you can see who's been swimming without trunks. So some people have been swimming without trunks. And the tide has changed, so they are exposed. And you will see that every time you have a long period of a given state in financial markets, when you come out of that, well, there's some casualties at the adjustment. But I think overall, it's healthy for the world economy to have more normal interest rates.
And indeed, and sometimes, you know, now, I suppose it's payback for a lot of people. They've had it easy for a while. But talk to me about how you think regulation can help or hinder at the moment. Do we need more regulation? And I know one thing, you know, that you talk about too, it's fine, the regulation, it's there, but it's also about the people that have to execute this, you know, that culture, you know, drives conduct in many ways.
I think it's like everything in life. It's primarily and first about people. I don't know a business sector. I was having a few side conversations with people in sectors I'm not familiar with. Every time I ask them, somebody in the gaming industry, I ask them, what's essential? He said people. In every business I know, in every situation, in the end it's about people and how people behave. Regulation, look, I was on a panel with a regulator after the great financial crisis, and he said there would never be a financial crisis again. And frankly, sometimes my body language betrays me, and I laughed. And I said, well, of course there will be. We can't say when, but our job is to make sure that if and when there is one, we minimize its social impact, we minimize its economic impact. And I think there's been a lot of work and thought going into that since 2008-09. So that you can see that with the current tribulations, the impact is less. But yes, the human factor at the end is key. I have a memory in my... When I was CFO of Prudential in London, 2008, fourth quarter of 2008 is the long, all those who were active then remember it. In October 2008, Prudential was created in 1848. It has 6 of its 10 worst intraday share price falls. So I would look at the screen and the share price was at 15%, 16%. And the Friday, there were rumors that Lloyd's was going down. was going to be bankrupt that weekend. We had 750 million pounds of capital left, and we had 1.5 billion pounds of deposits at Lloyd's. And I called, I remember my CEO wasn't there, I was in my office, I called Paul Tucker. The governor of Bank of England was not there. I said, Paul, you think you have a crisis right now? Every bank is falling one after the other. The insurance sector is holding. If you do this, we're going down. And he said, I'll call you back. And I hung up. It's probably the longest hour in my life. You know, I just sat there for an hour. I couldn't do anything. And he came back and said, okay, we'll give you till Monday. We took our deposits out, and the rest is history. So a lot of those crisis situations are down often to a few individuals, and you need to have solid nerves. You need to be calm, not panic, stay rational, think clearly, and make good decisions. And that's not taught in schools. And that's down to the individual. And back to Credit Suisse, I'm proud that we had 5 years without major incidents under my watch, and a lot of that is down to experience.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what you're going to learn on the job, so to speak, and hopefully you're going to learn it from the right people and do the right thing. Talk to me a little bit about emerging markets, because things are very different there, and it's more expensive to get access to capital. You know, what can be done there to bring the emerging markets, I suppose, into, you know, the system?
I think there are a few things. First of all, I'm a long-term emerging markets bull. Okay? To be a bear on emerging markets is to be a bear on mankind. And that's something I will never do. I believe there is too much intelligence, too much talent in emerging markets with a positive demography, so that I'm always going to be a bull. Okay? And growth is about productivity. If you can infuse today's cutting-edge technology in emerging markets, you get growth. Okay? Anybody who's been to Africa has been what happens when you build a road. The village is coming, the electricity coming, the crops coming, the activity coming so I'm positive. And I really think there is a revolution underway. If you look at the key sectors in the economy, you look at energy, and I'm getting personally involved in the solar sector and in renewables. I'm merging with a solar company. The cost of solar has gone down 300 times in the last 30 years, right? And people don't realize that. So that changes completely the economic equation. If you take places like the Middle East, I was happy to hear our Saudi friends talk about what they're doing in renewables, but it's true across the Middle East, it's true in Africa. And that will be a big boost to growth, because unfortunately a lot of emerging economies have energy costs that are too high, so it makes them not competitive. You look at logistics and transportation. Do you know that Africa has an excess of food production? What it has a deficit of is storage and transportation. Africa produces enough food to feed all Africans twice a year. It's just that 60% of the crop rots or is eaten by insects along the road. So being able to build roads, being able to warehouse, and using modern technology for that is vital, and it's happening. I know, young Africans who have started companies doing that. So you've got energy, you've got transportation, you've got financial services, banking the unbanked. I'm also involved with a company that is basically serving SMEs, and really I was invited 2 years ago to talk to the African heads of state, and I talked to them about SMEs. I really think that the missing link in their economic strategy is the development of SMEs. And I always say, if you want large companies, I don't know a large company that was not started by 2 people or 3 people, whether it's Microsoft or Apple or Google or...
And we sometimes forget that.
Yes, so feeding SMEs, creating an environment where SMEs can prosper is very important. So having a financial services sector that is able to do that is key, and modern technology and digital technology allows you to do that.
So a quick close to this too, making sure we manage risk for the future. If there was a quick call to action, what do you want it to be? What's that message you want to just send off before we close up?
Well, I always go back to the same, education. Invest in, believe in the human mind, the human condition, and invest in people, and you can never go wrong.
Okay, we leave it there. It's been an absolute delight to have you here.
Pleasure.
And I'm just sure everybody really enjoyed you sharing your ideas and knowledge. Thank you, Tidjane and Thiam.
Thank you.